Okay guys, here are the tools you're going to need to build your vintage snowboard plate. Paper and pencil, 1/2-inch plywood, some T-nuts, an old binding, jigsaw, a drill, 1/4-inch drill bit, 1/2-inch bore out bit, a 3/4 bore out bit, sander, and if you have it, plunge router. And that's all the stuff you need. Hey guys, at this time we're going to try to make a vintage snowboard plate. So to use on an old snowboard with newer bindings, because of course 20-year-old plastic breaks really easily. So this is my first attempt at the snowboard plate. So now we're going to make another one. Okay, so I'm using 1/2-inch plywood, and then after that I'm going to paint it, probably black to... Okay, so to get started, what I did is actually took an old binding and basically traced it out. If you don't have an old binding, you can take your new binding and kind of trace that out too. And then if you do have the old binding, then you can actually just draw your holes if you wanted to. But if you don't have an old binding, then you're going to have to use the paper and then mark out your holes on the paper. So you just put your paper on the board, and then you're going to have to mark your stance. Okay, now that we have our hole pattern, then we're going to draw it on our piece of wood. And you're just going to place that in the middle here, and then just mark your holes where you need to drill. So now you have your holes that we're going to drill through. Okay guys, we're going to use a 1/4-inch drill bit to make our holes. Okay, so this time we're going to use a 1/2-inch drill bit to just bore out the holes here so your screws fit flush against the plate. Okay, you probably want to go about a 1/4-inch deep. Okay, something like this, and then you want to do that with all the other holes. Okay, now we're going to cut our plate with our jigsaw. Okay, now that we have our plate all cut out, now we're going to make our hole pattern for the 4 disc. So you're just going to place your binding on top of it. And then we're going to mark our holes. Okay, now that we have our holes marked out, we're going to drill them out. Okay, now that the holes are drilled, now we're going to take our bore out bit. If you have 3/4, so we're going to flip the board over and then bore out our holes so the T-nuts can fit in there. So you probably want to go down probably a 1/4 in with the bore out bit. Okay, here we go. I'm going to finish this off though with the with a plunge router to make the holes nice and even. Okay, now we should be ready to put in our T-nuts. Okay, now we're going to get our hammer and hammer them in. Okay, after we're done drilling and putting in our T-nuts, then you want to make sure all the bolts fit in the holes and they line up properly. And now we're just going to sand the rest of the board to make it nice and smooth, and then we'll be able to paint it. Okay, now that our plate is all painted, all we have to do is mount it on the board. Okay, now that we have our plate mounted, we're going to put our binding on. And then here we have it, guys. You have a plate with a new binding, and you can ride your old board.
So if you want to continue with more how-tos, don't forget to like if you like this video. And if you want to stay updated with all the other how-tos on this channel, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so then you'll be notified when we post a new video.